The Scottish Government has revealed in its new economic plan that it is no longer committed to a blanket 3-point drop in corporation tax. The switch in policy is a departure for the SNP, which promised to introduce the cut if Scotland became independent. First Minister Nicola Sturgeon confirmed the change alongside other measures to end economic inequality. The UK government has insisted its austerity policies are working and have resulted in more Scottish jobs. Scottish Conservative finance spokesman Gavin Brown said Ms Sturgeon's economic strategy was underwhelming and called for business rates to be reduced. The First Minister told a gathering in Linlithgow that there would now be a focus on targeted changes in tax allowances. Targeted changes. While corporation tax remains reserved to Westminster, the Scottish Government has long argued for it to be devolved to Holyrood. And its white paper setting out the case for independence said, this government plans to set out a timescale for reducing corporation tax by up to 3 percentage points below the prevailing UK rate. However, the newly published 84-page economic plan, titled Scotland's Economic Strategy, March 2015, said, the Scottish Government has made clear that we have no intention to engage in a race to the bottom. Instead, we will use these powers to create a long-term competitive advantage, not through a blanket approach, but by using targeted changes in tax allowances. Ms Sturgeon visited the technology firm Calnex, where she outlined the twin-track approach aimed at increasing competitiveness while halting inequality. She told the gathering that productivity was the key to any sustainable long-term improvement in living standards. Ms Sturgeon explained, when we published the first Scottish Government economic strategy back in 2007, Scotland's productivity then was 6% below that of the rest of the UK. The gap with the rest of the UK has reduced significantly since then, but we are still some 13% below Sweden and 20% below Germany. So we need to do much more. That is why we want to focus on closing the gap with the very best in Europe, and that really matters. She added that if Scotland increased productivity by 0.1% a year, it could boost GDP by 1.3%, boost employment by 11,000, and boost tax revenues by £400 million a year after 10 years. Ms Sturgeon said that in order for those figures to be realised, there was a need to invest in infrastructure and skills, in contrast to the UK's government deep and harmful cuts in public spending. She added that the approach of promoting equality and competitiveness together is two sides of the same coin. It is in itself innovative, but it is also in tune with a growing international consensus. Scottish Labour said the First Minister was right to point out appalling inequality in Scotland. MSP Jackie Bailey said her party had a powerful vision for making Scotland a better and fairer country. Tax burden. She added, Scottish Labour has a plan to make Scotland the fairest nation on earth. We will make work pay for all Scots by calling time on 0-hours contracts, using the mansion tax to invest in our NHS, and raising the minimum wage for those in work. We have also set out how we would close the attainment gap by investing £125 million to support working-class kids who have been left behind by the SNP government in Edinburgh. Tory MSP Mr Brown said there was no commitment from the government to use new tax powers to lessen the tax burden and make us more competitive. He added, it is also surprising for the First Minister to use OECD, Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development, figures from 2010 to claim UK government policies aren't working. Only last week, the head of the OECD praised the tremendous progress made in Britain's economic recovery, and noted the remarkable levels of job creation. Andy Willocks, the Federation of Small Businesses Scottish policy convener, said the Scottish Government's intentions were admirable but needed more detailed work to ensure improvements on the ground. STUC General Secretary Graham Smith welcomed the Scottish Government's commitment to tackling inequality but said it could have gone further.